Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, Piers, and we are coming to you from Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook, on YouTube, and we are also coming to you live in WCW Nation, Wrestling Maniacs, and Generational Wrestling Society. So I just want to thank those places for allowing me to stream. Also, before we get into my interview with the lovely Lufisto, I just want to make a special thanks to our sponsors. First off is Signal Studios. Signal Studios is a recording studio here in Sydney, Australia, run by my good friend Rafi Tomasian. If you ever need some music made, if you're a wrestler on an intro theme, he can help you out. If you want some music just so you can sort of write your own song to, he can do that as well. If you're in Sydney, need a rehearsal space or need a place to record, hit up Signal Studios. Now, my next special sponsor is Mayan Belts. They make the best championship belts in the world. If you want a custom championship belt, you want a replica championship belt, hit up Eddie and Ira Williams on Facebook and they will look after you and give you a deal. They have special payment plans where you can pay as little as $20 a paycheck until your belt's paid off. So make sure you check out them. They make fantastic belts. I promise you won't be disappointed. Next is A-Rock Designs. A-Rock Designs is a good friend of mine, Ashley Rodriguez company. She makes custom cups, hoodies, t-shirts, keychains, all wrestling themed, but she's now making stuff that isn't quite wrestling themed. So I've got 3 cups on order from Ashley coming in, and I'm definitely going to make sure to show you when they come in, guys. But last but not least is my good friend Jeff Parthay from Immortal Restoning. So you've got an old championship belt. He can give it a facelift, make it all look pretty, and bring it back to life. Also, I just want to say a quick thank you to Mikey Mados, who makes us our lovely artwork that you see at the beginning of every show. But without further ado, let me bring out to you. She is Lufisto, the Canadian female professional wrestling legend. Lufisto, thank you for joining me on this Friday evening for you.
It is Friday for me. It's Saturday for you.
It is. Look, we've got a few people already starting to come in. Kevin Rodriguez, a good friend of mine, he says WRS is here. Mike Riggs saying what's up, and a Facebook user saying wrestling. Yes, that is what we're going to talking about with Lufisto. But Lufisto, how are you going with everything that's going on in the world with this quarantine stuff and everything that's happening?
It's been really busy because not only am I a wrestler, but I do work at a company that provides sanitary products. So we've been extremely busy. It's hell. So many calls, products we can't provide. Everybody's freaking out because of the coronavirus, and we're trying our best. But I mean, it's really hard to deal with, but hey, we do our best. And besides that, the gym is closed, so I train at home. There's no wrestling, so try to do the best with what I have. Play a lot of Mortal Kombat 11.
Well, yeah, I've got 2 young kids under 5, so I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So me and my wife are like this at the moment after nearly 2 months of being locked in the house with them. So as I'm sure you can imagine. But so Lufisto, let's get into it. You started wrestling like at 17 years old. You're pretty young. So prior to getting into that, like, what got you into wrestling? Were you always a fan of it? Like, what was it that drew you in from a fan perspective?
I was a fan at a very young age. I remember like my first memories of it are me watching it with my grandma. She was a Hulk Hogan fan. I liked the Ultimate Warrior. And then for a while, I just stopped watching because I was into music. I played bass and I was singing in a band. And my drummer, he was a big fan of wrestling. He's like, you got to see this guy. You got to see this guy. He's amazing. And he was talking about The Undertaker, who was in a feud with Yokozuna, and he was building his casket. So from there, I really got hooked to wrestling. Like, I was mesmerized by The Undertaker. And at the same time, there was that feud with, I was going to say Medusa, but back then it was Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano. And I just thought these 2 women's were like incredible. From there, I discovered Japanese wrestling, and it's like, that's what I want to do. I want to wrestle like the Japanese Joshis.
Yeah, the Japanese style back then was, and even for the women, it was very, very similar to the men's. It was very aggressive, very hard hitting, and definitely giving that meaning to the Japanese strong style. But, breaking into the business at 17 years of age, what did you find the most challenging about it? Because obviously, you know, back in the 90s, you know, I'm, you know, very close in age to yourself, while, you know, it was almost a leading into PC, but in the 90s, especially 97, it wasn't so PC. So how did you find being a female breaking into pro wrestling when there wasn't probably necessarily that many females breaking into wrestling at the time?
I was actually the only one in the province where I live. And it's funny that you asked me this question, because today I saw my first wrestling teacher. He came to my job and he was telling the other girls I'm working with, she's like, you know what? I told her she had to show up like 3 times a week, and she was the best one. She would kick every guy's ass in the room. And he was telling her how dedicated I was, because I wanted to prove everybody everybody wrong, that because I'm smaller, like I'm 5'1". I used to be like over 200 pounds back then, and being the only girl, everybody was telling me wrestling is not for girls. Like girls wrestlers just attraction. They don't take you seriously. Basically, you're a joke. And it was always about proving these people wrong. And I was always the first one trying a new move, because I wanted to, you know, prove my teacher that he was giving me a shot, and I didn't want to disappoint him. But also, like, all the other guys that were in the school, I was like, well, I'm going to be as good as you and even better than you. Like, it was almost like an obsession, which, I mean, looking back, it's like, my God, like, when I was getting hurt, I wasn't saying anything. Like, it was like I wanted to prove people so bad that I could do it.
Yeah, no, and like when you were breaking in, so who trained you in when you first initially got into it?
I actually got trained by 4 wrestlers in my own town of Sorel: Pierre Marchessault, Eric Laroche, Patrick Lewis, and Yves Miette. They were all like local wrestlers, not known, but Pierre was really good on teaching the basics, and he was very patient. And yeah, I've learned from them, like the basic moves and everything. And from them, I moved to Montreal to study photography, and I started training with Lenko Jack Shelley from International Wrestling. One day I was in a class, and we were only 2 girls then, and he took me aside and he's like, you look bored. Like, I see you want to do more. So his son, Eric, was really, really good. So he took me aside and started training me with his son. And I've learned so much from him. Like, he was so good, and again, like, very patient. And for some reason, I think he saw something in me that I couldn't even see. Like, he's like, it's in you. It's in you. He kept saying that. And from then, I went to the ICW school, which was a really rough place to train at. You have to bump on the floor before going to the ring. And
Sorry to interrupt. Is that the Sexy Eddie's promotion, or was that Sexy Eddie's?
no, that was IWS. Sexy Eddie's a lot later.
Oh, right.
ICW is actually Inter-Championship Wrestling, where I won. It was my second male championship, the provincial championship, and that's actually where I started doing the hardcore wrestling.
Yeah, and you mentioned the hardcore wrestling, and you know, as we were talking backstage, and everyone who watches this show knows I'm a big mark for CZW, and you know, was a big fan, and from the early days, and seeing you come in and having some of these matches, and you know, and doing the hardcore styles and the death match styles that I saw you do. Now, I've spoken to other female talent, and I've spoken to certain male professional wrestlers about intergender wrestling. And for me, intergender wrestling will work if it makes sense. If you've got a 5 foot nothing female going up against a 6'12" male, it's hard to believe that is going to be a competitive fight. When I saw you in Cage of Death going against Zandig, Nick Gage, and Lobo, firstly I was like, oh my God, they're going to murder this poor woman. It was a very brutal match, and you took a lot of punishment in that, but you made it believable that you belonged. And I'm not just saying that. You made it legitimately believable, where I was like sitting there going, holy shit, like this is incredible to watch. And how important to you was obviously going into a match like that, and obviously the hardcore wrestling and stuff I really want to get into with you, but how did you find going into that match? Was that the biggest match of your career at the time?
It's really it was, well, I don't think I didn't even time the process what was happening, because uh I told this story before, but some people don't know. At first I was not in the cage of death. I had another match that night, and then I go backstage and Zendig goes, "Hey kid," he was always calling me kids, like, "Hey kid, ready for the cage?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "You're going in the cage." I'm like, "What?" It's like, I just wrestled and I don't have another gear, so that's why I'm wearing shorts and a CZW like t-shirt, because I had no other gear. It's like I was coming for one match, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "We go in there, you take the mic and you jump in." I'm like, "Okay." So like everything went so quick, and then like it is the end of the show. They give me the mics, like, "Go out there." It's like, so I don't even remember what I said on the microphone. It was like, "Oh, I'm going to cage death. Nick Gage, I'm going to kill you," or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, it was like I didn't know it was going to happen until like a few minutes before, like a few or an hour or so before. So I didn't process it. I just like, gotta do this because the boss like is trusting me with this. And I had so much respect for Zandig, because he always like pushed me. He's like, "Kid, you can do it. Go, kid. Do whatever you want. Just hit hard and do your thing, do your thing." And yeah, I didn't want to disappoint him. I was always very grateful that he gave me the chance to go out there and once again prove people wrong. As you, I always wanted to fight the guys, because I think to be better, you need to fight people who are better than you. And with not too many women back there, usually the people who knew more and could teach me were guys. So it was very important for me to go in there and lay the shots in, because I didn't want my opponents to look weak, because I'm a smaller person and I'm a girl. So I always thought that if it makes sense, the work should look like a shoot.
Yeah.
So that way, if it looks like I'm really killing you, then people are going to get into the match. They're going to get into the action, and you're going to give them. I believe in giving people like a roller coaster of emotions, from fear to anger to being happy to everything. I like to give everything throughout a match. And with Zandig trusting me with all this stuff, yes, just went in the cage of death, did my best.
It was an amazing match, and I spoke with Black G's a couple weeks ago, and I had to bring up the match he had with you for the CZW junior heavyweight title, and he does not say enough nice things about you. He said, he goes, "She hits hard." Like he's like, man, he's like that. She goes, "She can wrestle. She's one of the best in the world. It doesn't matter female or male. She is just." He was just. I'd love to send you that clip for it, but
I'd love to see it. I really loved every match I had with Black G's, and the little kind of mini feud I had with Blackout was fun. So yeah, like I had a very great experience with Black G's, and it's one of the guys I would wrestle again. We had some great chemistry back then, and I'm sure we would still have great chemistry.
The match in itself was, as you said, the waves of emotion. Like I rewatched it not too long ago, and I was literally just sitting on the edge of my seat. And I was like, "Whoa!" And it was like, I mean, like I already knew who won the match because I'd seen it so many times before. But I was still like going, "Come on, Lufisto, come on, like get him, get it." But like I said, I'm a big wrestling mark, so I still like let that suspension of disbelief.
Well,
But
it's good because as a fan, you have to kind of let go of what you know and just enjoy the moment. I love going to shows and just like, I don't know anything about wrestling. I just want to enjoy what's happening. I want to get into the action, and then I scream, and I get into it. And then not only it's fun for the people who are performing, for me as a fan, but as a fan, I'm just having fun, and I'm like, I really enjoy like seeing a very good, hard-hitting wrestling match. So yeah, I get like I get what you're saying right now. Like you're sitting there and you get involved in it. And I always said like there's four people in the match. There's you, there's your opponent, there's the referee, but there's also the crowd. It's a four-way thing always, and everybody should be involved in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But one thing I did want to talk was about the hardcore matches and the death match and the death matches. So, what I was a big fan of deathmatch wrestling when I was younger, and it still has a very special place in my heart, and I still like to watch it occasionally. But what made you decide to get into doing that? Like, what was the thing in your head where I went, you know what, I'm going to go full into this and go as hard as these guys go, and you're pretty much one of the first females to do it.
It just happened. I was at ICW, like I said, Montreal, and then suddenly it just happened in the match. We ended up outside, ended up in the barricades, and then chairs went flying, and people went nuts to the point where there was almost a riot. And then I was like, wow, I love this reaction. Like, people are so into this. And I felt like from this moment, I needed to show people I could do more and more and more. And one of the main reasons, I think, now that I look back and I do have some sort of wisdom on why I did it, I feel like back then it was necessary. With the women not being taken seriously, I feel that I needed to prove and show that whatever type of matches, whatever, whoever was in front of me, I could do everything. I could wrestle, I could do the hardcore, I could do more of a technical style, submission, whatever. And I just feel it was necessary to show, like, hey, we as women can be tough as well, and we can take the shots. Today, would it be necessary for a woman? No, because women wrestlers are so good as athletes. You don't necessarily need to push those boundaries, because as an athlete now, you are respected. You are taken seriously most of the time. Seen as an equal. There's a lot of more intergender matches now, and women matches are hard-hitting, fast-paced, very good wrestling, which back then, like, girls were hardly trained. And for me, I just felt it was necessary to do it. And from then, it was just more like every match I was adding something. Barricades, chairs, let's try the table, let's try the ladder, let's try the barbed wire. What's worse than that? Let's try the thumbtacks. Okay, let's go to the lights. So every time it was like, what can I do more? What can I do more? Okay, no girls did that, I'm going to do it. No girls did that, I'm going to do it. It was always about being the first to do it, to, break down the barriers and actually prove people wrong. Like, it's proving people wrong should be like the title of my biography for the first few years of my wrestling career, because that's what it was. Like, I still do. I love wrestling so much that it was so important for me to be taken seriously, because when I was the only girl, they was like, hey, why you're not a manager? Be a valet. I was like, no, I want to be a wrestler. I really want to be a wrestler. And I think that's the sacrifices back then that needed to be done to show that in any type of, like I said, any type of matches, any type of opponent size, years of experience of difference, it needed to be done to achieve where we are today.
Yeah, no, look, I can definitely agree with that. And, I ask, when I do have the opportunity to have deathmatch wrestlers on, I always do ask that question. It's like, what's the, and obviously I wouldn't consider you a solely deathmatch wrestler. You really are one of those very well-rounded wrestlers who can wrestle many different styles. But like, I always wonder what the mentality of going into a death match would be, as opposed to going into a match with no gimmicks and no external factors involved. But with the death matches, there's so many weapons and so many things. Was there ever a moment where you yourself were like going, oh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing? You know what I mean? Like,
it happens. Like, why am I doing this again? It happened quite a few times. But every time I I was setting up like my death matches, I always thought about it. I would always try to set up the matches. I would set like a normal match. Like it needs a story throughout. Who's the baby face? Who's the heel? Like the shine, the hope. Like I would really build the match as if it was like a regular match, but it would be wrestling with weapons. I always thought that a good hardcore match would not be like just hitting yourself with, back and forth, like with stuff. It needs to be a move onto something, a move using something. Here and there, like I did matches that I look back and I'm like, that was more garbage. I think there's a fine line between hardcore wrestling and garbage, and sometimes I did cross it. But there's very good matches too where, like I said, the match itself, even if it's bloody, even if it's there's weapons involved, it has a structure, and that's how
it makes sense.
It makes sense. And again, that roller coaster of you get into the match and then you boo and then you get excited. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? You try to get them onto that roller coaster. Even if it's a different type of match, it should have that same wrestling, that basic wrestling structure.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what most of all the deathmatch guys I've had on has always said. It's, you have to be able to tell a story with it, and professional wrestling has to go with it. And I've said this many times: there's good deathmatch wrestling, and there's bad deathmatch wrestling. There's great deathmatch workers, and there's not so great deathmatch workers. And it's the same in pro wrestling for anything. I'm sure there's great promotions, there's bad promotions, there's good workers, there's bad workers. So moving forward into 2006, you came into the United States. You broke into the United States at the same time, and and like I said, this interview is about you, but I will mention a few names: Kevin Steen, El Generico, both those gentlemen, aka Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but also Frankie the Mobster. Sexy Eddie as well. No, Sexy Eddie I think came out a little bit before you guys.
A little bit later. I think it was there. No, he was there before because I came in with him. Yeah, we were the Canadians. We didn't have names like the Canadians.
Mr. Josh Hammer, a good friend of mine, says loving the Iron Maiden shirt. So Lufisto is definitely a metalhead like myself. So I definitely going to be asking her about some music a little bit later on. But anyway, so you came in to the United States and you started performing in some of the major promotions in the US, most notably CZW. Now, when you started wrestling in CZW, you actually pinned Kevin Steen for the CZW Iron Man Championship in June 2006 at a show called Trapped.
Yeah.
You are the only female to hold a CZW championship. You are the only female to compete in Cage of Death. But winning that title, look, pro wrestling, there's storylines. It's, we're not saying pro wrestling's fake, but it's a predetermined outcome. And there's definitely, we're not trying to throw any bones about that. But what did it mean to you winning a men's championship in one of the top independent promotions at the time, and pretty much like the secondary title for that promotion? What did that mean to you?
Like I have been in the States before for smaller promotions. I actually did work for Tony Atlas's promotion, like back into like 98 and 99, sorry, in 2000. And I already had a few male titles, like including like a main championship in Canada that I got in 2001. But when I got the CZW and I was told I was actually getting the championship, like it took me a while to say, like, really? And how it happened was kind of weird because I was pinning my own partner and everything. But there was like a free-for-all rule type of thing. And it was actually Kevin's idea. They first wanted to give it to Generico, and Generico's like, I don't want it. I'm going somewhere else after. And then Kevin goes like, what about her? It was more like of a joke at the first time. And then Zendy goes like, fuck yeah.
Zending booking at its best.
So yeah, Kevin tells this story like really good on a shoot. I think it's on YouTube. And yeah, Zending went along with it, and it worked. And I kept it for a while until I unfortunately had an injury and I could not defend it anymore. But yeah, it's like he was keeping it on me for I don't know how long, and he was like, "You can go, kid, do your thing, and then we'll send Nick Gage every match." So I was getting Nick Gage's choke bomb every single match. Like I can't hear from the Belto without going, "Where is he?"
Oh, and I love that. I love that song. Like From Whom the Bell Tolls. Like I always loved it. And then when I started hearing like Nick Gage come in the ring to it, I was like, "Sam, I was from whom?" Like really getting into it. But I suppose if I'm getting choke slammed onto a knee, I probably wouldn't be that excited.
God. Like, yeah, I took that move every show. Like, Lord.
And Nick Gage is surprisingly, I've spoken to a few people and like I say, like he must be like so stiff to work with. And like, nope, he's really good to work with. And I'm like, really? He's really good.
The few altercations I have with him in the Cage of Death and all those moves or whatever he went out to just give me for some reason. I can't remember where they were going with that. No, I had a great time with Nick. He's one tough dude, but like very passionate, and I love to work with passionate people. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's one of those people which is like it's almost like I sort of left to believe like, is this a gimmick or is this him?
This is why it's so good. You're asking yourself the questions like,
yeah,
when you're like wondering, it's because it's great.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'd love to try and get him on the show, but I'm scared he'd tell me to fuck myself. but like sticking around into 2006, you won the Stranglehold Wrestling King of the Deathmatch tournament, where in the first there was the first tournament or deathmatch tournament held in Canada, and you beat Necro Butcher in the final.
Yes.
And Necro Butcher again, an independent wrestling icon, deathmatch icon.
Definitely.
How did this all come about? How did and like obviously going in the ring with someone like
I know. I
like
remember showing up at the show and I'm thinking, I'm the only girl in the tournament. Like I'll do one round, that'll be it. And then they go, no, you have other matches. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go out second like I did the best of the best. It's like, oh, you're going in the main. I'm like, huh? You're going over. I'm like, what? And then like Necro Butcher, I was like, fuck. I remember like, because like you said, he's a hardcore legend. That's his thing. Like I feel he's in previous to Pain. Like, and I was like scared and excited and like so many emotions were going through my head and heart at the same time. And then we went through the match and my God, this match is like every hit in that match is like shoot. Like the punches and the kicks and everything. So when somebody tells me like, oh, women can go out there with a man, I'm like, look at this match, watch this match, because some of us can. And I remember the thing that I remember the most after this match is I didn't know he was going to do that. He just grabbed the mic and he goes like, well, tonight I'm going to say it. You're the man. So I was the man before the man.
There is no denying that. There is no denying that. There is no denying that. But that's the thing. Like to go over in a deathmatch tournament, a specialty that Necro has built a career on, and to beat him in a tournament, that must have been a massive moment for you as well. But how did you feel like going in and being obviously a female accomplishing something like this? And not just a female beating Necro Butcher, but any pro wrestler going into a tournament like this, going up against an established name like Butcher was back then, and it still is to this day. that must have been a huge moment and a huge accomplishment for your career.
Definitely, it is. It is without a doubt my most important match when it comes to death matches. I see this one and the one with Joe Leader in Mexico as important because they're different, but still, to me, like they're like at the top of like my best death matches that I had. And for him to give me the kudos at the end that you're like, you're the man, you were the better man today, and give me props for everything. He's like, I didn't hold nothing back with this bitch, and she took every fucking shot. So I was like, thank you. So yeah, it's definitely my toughest opponent, definitely. But yeah, it is my toughest and greatest death match, that's for sure.
I was actually watching it last night, and god damn, I was watching. I was watching.
There's a picture of that match. It's somewhere. I found it on my computer, and I need to put it online. He hits me in the face so hard that somehow my face shifted, and the camera like caught it right away. It doesn't even look like myself. Like I'm like deformed because he hits me so hard. And it's like, wow. I was like, this picture is like incredible, but it shows you the intensity of the match.
Oh, I'd love to. Please put that up.
I'll try to find it.
So, also just wanted to, go in and just sort of like looking at what you've accomplished in wrestling as well. But you've also taken in and taken roles in backstage roles for promotions, like a producer type role and agent type role. How important, and how important to you, I should say, is it taking on a role like that to help develop younger talent or up and coming talent and giving them that feedback? Is that something that's always been important to you, as in investing into the business?
Very much, because I felt that was something that was missing from where I started. Like I've learned a lot by trials and making errors and mistakes because I didn't have that person who could guide me. Like, yes, I did have teachers, but I went from one teacher to another because school were closing and I was moving and somebody was quit wrestling. So I never had that father or mother figure in wrestling, like the wrestling mom, wrestling dad, as we call them. And it's something I always felt that was missing because I needed that someone to ask questions. I needed answers like, what am I doing wrong and why? What could I do better? How can I become a better wrestler with a better etiquette? There's a lot of things I didn't know and I should have known, but because I've learned a lot of it by myself, I felt like I could have been so much better, like sooner in my career, but I was just trying stuff, didn't work. Now you see nowadays people are trained so well that they learn so fast. And I'm thinking like if you are taught by a guy like Jonathan Gresham, who's so good, within a year you're going to be like as good as somebody who had been wrestling for 10 years back in my days, because you have that knowledge, that someone who can guide you, teach you, and that is so good. And I felt that was something that was missing. And so I've always like tried to be available. It's like, do you have questions? How can I help you? I love to help the younger generation set up their matches. Okay, what are your moves and where can we put them so it makes sense in the match and you're not just doing moves. You use them as this move or this combo is a better hope spot. This one is a better shine. This one is too big. It should be a falsie. I like to take what they have, and that's how I will set up my matches too with somebody who has less experience. What can you do? What are you good at? And then let's place this somewhere that it's going to have that flow, that good in-ring psychology, and you're going to be comfortable with it. And I really feel like in helping and almost like holding their hands, sometimes I feel I'm too nice. But I really feel in that working with the strength and the weaknesses of people around you will make the overall show better. Yeah. So that's why it is very important for me to provide this this aspect of wrestling to other people, because I felt it was missing in my career.
Yeah, and did you have anyone in the early starts of your career that did give you that little bit of mentorship, or was it just sort of little bits and pieces along the way from different promotions that you were in?
Yeah, pretty much little bits and pieces. Like I said, there was my first teacher, Pierre, and then the school closed, so I went to Len Shelley, and then this promotion closed, so then I went with the Prue brothers, and they taught me a little bit. And then after that, it was more like learning every match with people who were better than me. I had a feud with Tyson Dukes from Canada, who's an amazing, amazing worker. So when I was wrestling with somebody as good, I felt like I was learning a little bit every time. So every match for me was like a learning process. So yeah, it's pretty much like it was like a slow paced thing for me.
No, fair enough. But and that's the thing. I think by now in professional wrestling, and you mentioned it now, you're seeing more athletes coming through, and or I think professional wrestlers are looked at more like athletes now,
Mhm.
like a professional athlete than a like you know what I mean, like the quote unquote pro wrestler, or how it was looked at years ago. But you see the professionalism in obviously some of the major promotions with their talent. But obviously you've been in professional wrestling for 23 years, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, and if you're okay with discussing, is females in professional wrestling and how they've been used not used over the years, but how they've been portrayed over the years. I'd probably
Mhm.
say is a better word to say, but how have women been treated backstage in professional wrestling over the past 23 years that you've seen? And you've wrestled in a lot of the major promotions, around the United States, Japan, Canada, Europe. What's it been like over the 23 years?
At the beginning, it was more like you always had to fight for your place on the card. You were just an attraction. People didn't want to take you seriously. It was more like, oh, you're just a girl. You don't have to do this. I would always get, why do you work so hard? You're a girl. You don't have to. I'm like, what? And a lot of people are like, you're taking this too seriously. It's like, well, I want to be serious. I want to be taken seriously. But they were like, no. And when I started wrestling the guys, most of them didn't want to wrestle the girl. My image is not going to look good. I can't hit a girl. It's going to look like domestic violence. And then I was trying to tell them, like, why is Batman fighting Catwoman okay, but you can't fight me? It's not like you're beating me up. I want to be here as an equal, as a fighter, like
Yeah.
in the competitive sports where it is my choice to be here and stand in front of you in the ring. And so I always have to fight to. It's like, no, you got to give me a chance. Got to give me a chance. And they're like, yeah. And usually when I would wrestle with guys and they would see that I was trying as hard as they did, and they were like, okay, she really wants to try. So once I had one match, it would go better for the other ones. But at first, there was always like, I'm wrestling the girl. It's like, and some of the guys really didn't want it, so I was getting punched as hard as they could. Stretch. They just wanted me to leave because I didn't belong and they didn't want me there. So I went from that, and then I got to some promotions that were like, okay, this girl really wants to do something, and I'm thinking about Hardcore Wrestling Federation in Ontario, where they had me like wrestle their guys, and it was no problem. But then suddenly the athletic commission's like a woman in the ring with men. No, there's a rule, you can't do it. So I had to fight the government itself and the bureaucracy. It took me over 3 years to not only take the ruling down that women and men could not be in the ring at the same time, but I took the whole athletic commission down.
Wow.
So they deregulate completely wrestling. After all, like several calls and filled up papers, and actually put an official complaint to the Human Rights of Canada um, for women to be treated equally and to have the liberty of choosing their own opponents, male or female. So that was like almost like over a close to 4 year battle. So after this, things went a little bit better. That's when CCW came and people like John Zen, they were like, this girl really wants to do it. And then I met girls who wanted it as much as me, like Mickey Knuckles. And
Mm,
then Shimmer came and like the all women promotion, and it slowly went from you're nothing to having a place where we can call home, and Shimmer, and then Shine, and Femme Fatale in Montreal. And of course, at the same time, you had Soraya Knight in England who was building the women out there, and you had Madison Eagle in Australia, and she's one of the best workers in the world. And I think she doesn't get the respect or the like. I really think she's underrated. People should talk about her a lot more. She is so incredible, and I think she did a lot
agree.
for women wrestlers in Australia. And then you have the Japanese, and then Mexico. So it really went like very slowly from very, very bad to slowly, but it was a constant. You always get that person that doesn't believe that women wrestling is a serious thing, that we should be treated as attractions. And so it took many, many, many years for us to get to the point where not only we are seen as main events, equals on the card, have more than one match on the card. We're more than an attraction. Now we are part of the show, or even be involved in like where intergender wrestling is not only a regular thing, it is now mainstream with Impact that brought it in, and
Mm,
um, other bigger promotions like Beyond Wrestling in the States that really promotes good intergender wrestling with people like Kimberly and Chris Statlander, and Penelope Ford was doing it, and Veda Scott. And so, yeah, it's a very slow evolution, and it's been really, really hard. I think people don't know how hard it's been for some of the women that started to get where we are now.
yeah.
So when that's why when somebody's trying to bring us back years ago, when we had, and not to mention like we had to fight the attitude era, that where
Mm,
we needed to look like the cookie sheet, like the cookie cutter like model, and then the bra and panties match, and then people thought that was women wrestling. So it's a constant struggle. But in general, right now it is so much better. There's a lot more opportunities for women. There's great divisions now in the bigger promotions, like all of the
yeah.
NWA is having great matches with Thunder Rosa and Allison Kay. And then you got Impact. You got like there's so many more options now, and with the independents being more like you can get them now. It's not like an underground thing anymore with the internet and independent wrestling TV. Now you can. There's a lot of options, and you can see a lot of good or women wrestling of all kinds now. So slowly but surely we got there. But once in a while, there's going to be that person or that situation that's trying to put us back, and it's a constant struggle.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you see women's wrestling now. It's women are main eventing pay-per-views. I mean, one of the Impact Wrestling, one of the top promotions in the world, now has has a female as their world champion. Do you see something like that, like a major promotion putting their main title on a women a female pro wrestler is increasing women's pro wrestling stock by a long way, or do you think it's sort of just doing it for a spectacle?
You know what? As long as it's putting women wrestlers in front and as presented as athlete, the way Impact Wrestling did it with Tessa, she's fighting the guys like as an equal, and she's out there like wrestling. So I
Mm,
think the presentation of it is not like she's out there as a fighter. And as long as they keep that idea, I think anybody could do it. Can every woman wrestler do it? Not necessarily. Like I
no.
said, like there needs to be that hard hitting kind of style where you're like believable. So not every woman could do it, but can every promotion do it? definitely, if they have the good players to do it, the guys who can work with the girls good, and as long as you have a great match and it makes sense, everybody can do it. It's all about how you set it up, how you bring it, how you tell the story.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and it's a very important, and as I said earlier, it's you can make it believable, and
Mhm.
and when I was talking, and to go back to say when I was talking to G's, and I said you and his match, or the match with you and he, I should say, it was very believable because it was similar type of height. It
Mhm.
looked like it was, you know what I mean, like
Mhm.
you were very on par with each other, and then as skills go, you know what I mean, it was a believable match.
Mhm.
And that's one thing, is like, make it believable. Like, wrestling always is going to be a suspension of disbelief, but don't
Mhm.
make it too far out there. And that's definitely where I think it's very important. But intergender wrestling, to me, same with deathmatch wrestling, there's good and there's bad.
Exactly. There's good and there's bad. And I mean, if you put a smaller wrestler with a bigger one, it's not necessarily going to look good either. But I
No.
remember Rey Mysterio fighting the Big Show. Rey Mysterio is so quick, he's so agile that he's going to be able to slow down the bigger guy because he has, those aspects where they can both
Mm.
feed off each other with their different style,
Yeah.
and it's done right. So it doesn't matter if he's 5'3" and the other one's 7 foot tall. The way they
Mm.
work the match, and the fact that Mysterio, he might not have the size, but he does have the speed and the agility. It works
Mm.
well.
I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest, but back to talking about you, all right? Because you're the reason we're all here today, Lufisto. So I wanted to mention, so, at 30 years of age, back in April 2010, after a match for NCW, you suffered a stroke. You've got a family history of heart issues from what I was
Mhm.
able to find out. But, you know, going through a stroke at 30 years old it's shocking. And how was that for you? I mean, obviously it would have been a scary moment, but was there a time that you were questioning, okay, do I need to retire from wrestling? Do I need to sort of leave love what I do? Like, what was going through your head, in obviously in at that moment, but also the month
Mhm.
after that as well?
The thing that people, I think, forget is like, at that moment we thought it was a stroke, but in the end it was not. What happened is that I was born with a heart defect that created an effect that looked like a stroke. If I had a full stroke with a brain scar, I could not wrestle anymore. But at that very moment when it happened, they thought I had a stroke. And I remember, and that's where people got confused, and it's my fault. I did that tough enough video when I said, like, when I had a stroke, I was laying at the hospital, and the only thing I had in my head was, like, will I be able to wrestle again? Because at this moment, that's exactly was like, oh my God, I had a stroke, I can't wrestle anymore. And that was my only thoughts, like, I can't wrestle. It was not even like, am I gonna live or whatever. It's like, oh my God, I won't be able to wrestle. Thank God, after a few tests, which is a terrible test where they put a camera down your throat. It's the worst thing ever. They found out that I was born with a hole in my heart. It's called an atrial septum defect,
Hmm.
and it's from birth. So what it did is it created like an effect of stroke. A lot of people do have that problem, but they just don't know because nothing happens and they just die. And then when they get the autopsy, it's like, oh, they had that. But some people will never have a problem with it. They're just born with it, you live with it, and you die with it. With me, this happened, and I got it fixed. I even have a letter from the doctor saying there's nothing wrong with her anymore. The problem has been fixed. There's no scar on the brain. There's no problem with her wrestling. Um, so that's why I was able to keep going. Because otherwise, if I had like a scar on my brain, wrestling was completely over. And I actually went online and had to I did like a whole thing called it like Lufisto the medical instead of the musical, because there's a lot of people like I've even read online that I had a heart attack, and I'm like, whoa, okay, let's make things. My dad died from a heart attack when he was 31
Oh,
years old, but not like obviously not me. I'm still here, and I didn't have a heart attack. So that's why I went online and I made sure that it's like, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. So
Yeah.
there was no stroke. There was a stroke effect because the heart condition, that's what made it, like the heart defect, I should say. It's not a condition because it's right now I'm not even on pills anymore. It's almost like you break your arm, you get it fixed, you move on. So basically, I was born with this, I got it fixed, move on. So that's why I keep wrestling and I can keep training, and there's no problem.
That's and as Kevin Rodriguez says, long live Lufisto. Tyler Peck, he says, great story of overcoming the odds. Lufisto is a very inspirational character, and I've really enjoyed spending a bit of time talking with Lufisto and learning even more about one of my favorite wrestlers. But I just wanted to, you did mention the Tough Enough video that you did. What led you to apply for Tough Enough? I mean, at that point in your career, did you just want to go, well, I just want to throw it out there, see if it sticks, it sticks. What was the thought behind that application video?
I actually saw the Tough Enough thing before. They actually were advertising it online. I saw it like on the actor thing. So I'm like, whatever. So I just sent my resume. And then a lady called me. It's like, I need to interview you. So I did a whole interview before they were announcing it on TV. And then I'm talking with her, and I did this, and I wrestled there. She's like, oh, you got way too much experience. And then
you work for the biggest wrestling company in the world.
You have way too much experience for Tough. And I was like, okay, but why don't you give me a shot? So that like stopped, and I was waiting. It's like, oh, well, we might call you back. And then they started advertising, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a video anyway, because I'm going to try to get people talking and whatever. But I already had my interview then. And I was already told too much experience to be on Top Enough by. But I did the video anyway in hopes that, I don't know, that somebody would say, hey, why not her? But even if a lot of fans were pushing for them to get me in and whatever, they were like, no, too much experience. That's what I was told.
That is wild. That is the most craziest thing.
I don't think I've ever told that story, actually. Yeah, the interview happened like before it was on like TV that they were looking for people, because I ended up finding it on some actor's website, something that they were looking for people for Tough Enough.
There you go.
Yeah, no.
And you heard it here first on Shooting the Shit Uncensored.
I know, yeah. I still have the little camera that they asked me to buy for that interview.
Really? Oh, so they didn't even send like they made you buy your own
get
camera.
yourself a camera. No.
Wow.
But yeah, unfortunately, I thought I was doing so good with the interview, and then at the end she's like, oh, you're very experienced, that won't work. I'm like, oh. I was like, I should have said, like, I'm new and I love wrestling. I was like, but no, I was like, I can't lie. I'm just like, yeah, I did this, I did this, I did this. And then
well, they would have found out eventually. They would have found out eventually. They would have found out eventually. I can just imagine if like you'd made it onto Tough Enough, and then it's like all these videos pop up of a Tough Enough competitor having death matches in Canada and in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's such good shit. But look, we're almost getting to that 1 hour mark with Lufisto, and she has been very gracious to give us her time for this interview. But like every interview, when we're close to wrapping up, it's time to play the Australian slang game. So, Lufisto, how it works is this is the Aussie slang game. Have you ever been to Australia?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, so have you ever been around many Australians?
I did. Shazza McKenzie, Madison Eagles, and Kylie Skater.
All right, so you may know it. You may know a few.
I may know a few.
All right. Okay. So we'll go the first one. I'm going to give you a slang word, and I'll use it in a sentence, and then I'll say the word at the end. You go tell me what's going on.
Okay.
Scan on. Hey, scan on.
Scan on.
Scan on.
Gone on. Like, get the hell out?
No, like I'd say it more. I'd say like, hey, Lufisto, scan on. Like, what's going on?
Oh, what's going on? Oh, Lord.
All right.
Gone on. I like that.
Fuck me dead, that bloke's a drongo. What's a drongo?
Is it a drunk?
No, like a drongo, like just like an idiot, like just
An idiot.
yeah, like a more.
Well,
I don't know, like are
wanker.
you drongo?
I know
Yeah.
wanker. Is it the same thing?
Yeah, like to call someone a wanker is more like calling him a dickhead.
A dickhead. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're a dickhead, mate. But all right,
Skater.
all right. So we're gonna go for a couple more here. So, hey, you want to come over to my house for a barbie and get on the piss? So that's
barbecue and get drunk.
That's correct. That's correct.
Woo!
Yeah. So whenever people say like, "Oh, what are you going to do this weekend?" I say, "I'm going to drink some piss." They're like, "Oh, no, I forget. I'm not talking to someone from Australia. No, beer. I'm drinking." Yeah. But okay. So another one. All right. Time to. Oh, I'm trying to think of a good one for you. Okay. I need to go to the bottle-o.
Take a shit.
I need to go to the bottle shop, the liquor store.
Oh, the bottle shop. I heard Bordello or something. I was like, is that the shitter?
Hey, Lufisto, I'm going up to Macca's. You want anything?
Oh, McDonald's?
Perfect. There you go.
That's too bad.
All right, so we'll go another one. We'll go another one. Oh, mate. My mouth is dry as a dead dingo's donger in the sun. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by my mouth is dry as a dead dingo's donger in the sun?
You have a sore throat, like you need water?
Yeah, my mouth is dry.
It's dry. Okay, yeah, that's 3.
All right, so we're getting close. We're getting close. All right, so
I love this.
all right, we'll do a couple more. We'll do a couple more if you don't mind. All right, so hey, I saw you and that guy had a pash at the pub the other night. What's a pash?
A passionate kiss?
You're getting better. You know what? You do well here in Australia. You definitely pick it up. You definitely pick it up. All right, so I got another one. Fuck, I'm rooted.
You tired?
Yeah, tired, screwed, like rooted, like buggered.
Five.
All right, so we'll go one last more. We'll go one more for Lufisto before we send it out here on a bang, and we're going to make sure we'll make sure this is probably going to be the hardest one.
Okay.
Hey, did you see my dad and his budgie smuggler?
Did you see my dad in his underpants?
Budgie smuggler. No, a budgie smuggler is like a speedo.
Oh, speeder. Okay.
Yeah, it looks. Anyway, I'm not going to say what it looks like. But Lufisto, before we end this, I did have one topic, and it was a statement that you made on YouTube, and we did say, and I just wanted you to give you an opportunity to address that before we wrap things up here. It was the statement that you made about CZW and WSU about how they were marketing their female wrestlers in a way which was, not marketing them as such as female wrestlers. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit and speak your mind on that?
Sure. The main problem here is not even sexuality. It's not, because we all know wrestlers and even male wrestlers, we have outfits that are pretty revealing. It's not even a shot at the adult industry. For people who don't know, I do have 2 degrees in multimedia and graphic, and I did work for a porn company. I was actually editing pictures for a porn company. So I have nothing against these people. It's actually a very hard work, and they have to deal with a lot of shit. The main problem I have here is that when you go to a wrestling promotion and you give them the right to use your image and your name, and it's a wrestling promotion, you give them the right to show you, present you, label you, and promote you as a professional wrestler.
Sure.
And you do not give them the right to change who you are, what you represent, and why you're there, which was the main problem with this. And how it happened is that there's a fan. It's like end of March. He tweets about, I don't know how the hell Lufisto versus Mercedes Martinez is a dirty cat fight. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then he sends me the link. And then I see them CCW promoting us as dirty girls in like sweaty fights. And then what else? Like all assets out and double D destruction and all that stuff. And I've been vocal about it. So CCW itself sends me a message. And they're like, oh, we know, we respect you. We can't do anything. It's a third party that bought the footage, and that's how they promote the women wrestling. And we try, but we can't do anything about it. So I've been in an argument with them saying, this is your brand. This is your name. And we trusted you with you, showing us as a professional wrestler. I was seeing people going online saying, yeah, but some people, like, they wear skimpy outfits and they have OnlyFans where they take naked pictures. Whatever a girl does on her own time is her right. But
100%.
when you show up to a wrestling show, you expect to be treated as a professional wrestler and nothing else. So when I saw that they were advertising us like that, I got into like some sort of verbal fight privately. And obviously they didn't care. They didn't do, oh, we can't do anything. We can't talk about it. It's a third party. And I'm like, how can you do this knowing, especially UCCW, knowing the struggle that women wrestlers had to endure to be taken seriously? And they just brushed it off. So I gave them 2 months as like in hopes that they would, change and start promoting like the WSU shows as with the names they had, like Battle Tested or the Anniversary or whatever name there was. But no, they kept going all assets out, top heavy. Look at those crazy like girl fights and CCW girls with a Z and whatever. So I just got tired of it. You would not listen to me, and the fact that they didn't care like was so disappointing to me because, like I said before, CCW has this very special place in my heart. I've grown there. I had great matches. It's where I did a lot of things for the first time, and they gave me big opportunities when John Zendig was there. And I even always considered DJ Hyde as one of my friends too. Like I never had a problem personally with him. And the fact that they wouldn't listen and they just like, oh, we can't do nothing about it. I just thought it was irresponsible and it was a slap in the face to all the female wrestlers. Because when we trust them in using our image and, I go there to wrestle. If I want to do like sexy pictures or whatever on my own, I'm going to do it on my own. It's going to be my choice. But if I chose to work for you as a professional wrestler, I do expect you to present me as such. And that's not what they're doing right now. And there's a fan who actually wrote to me and he was like, I was expecting like some sort of like, so that's why I said softcore porn, because that's the word he used. It's like, I was expecting like something fetishy, whatever, and then I saw like professional wrestling. It's like I thought I was buying something else. I'm like, yeah, sorry. So not only are they,
at least you're able to convert a porn
not only
fan
they're
to a wrestling fan.
misleading their customers and what they're presenting,
Yeah.
But they're also like, yeah, it's really like a slap in the face to the women wrestlers who, like, especially since they know the struggle and how long it took with the history of the women in CCW, which there was me and there was Mickey Knuckles who has a few matches there, and she fought real hard for intergender wrestling too and being seen as an equal. So that's why I was like, I have to do something about it, and I tried to be as professional as I could because, like I said, I didn't want to necessarily, um, I didn't want to. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I didn't want to destroy CCW, but this needed to be said because they're doing it, but other people might want to do it, or other people did it in the past, and it has to stop. Otherwise, we will never grow as athletes. We will go back years, behind. And yeah, I mean, somebody had to be vocal about it, and that's the only way I thought. Like, well, I'm gonna do a video. There was about like 4 or 5 people that didn't like it. Other people and even female wrestlers were very supportive of it, and wrestling fans were very supportive of it. And I had like tons of support all day. And hopefully, it brings them like at least to think what they did wrong. But with the answers I had before, I just don't really think they care, and they see girls as tits and ass and money. That was easy money. Especially the third party, he doesn't care. He's buying footage from other promotions or whatever, selling them again, and his way of selling stuff is to turn everything into a fetish.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's
It is.
disappointing, especially from a company that's been around so long and has really built its name off, wrestlers and performers breaking their backs for that company. But I definitely wanted to bring that up and sort of give you an opportunity to discuss that because, as I said to you, I saw that video the other day and it really stood out to me. Definitely, and as I said, my respect level gained for you tenfold. Just you could see the passion in that video, and I'll link it in the page and on our YouTube and Twitter, so our viewers can go back and see that and to see what we're talking about. But it was a very, very in depth, and you could tell it was definitely from the heart. So
Definitely. I mean, I've been fighting for women's right in wrestling since I started, and like I said, like I'll do it until I die. And yes, and you know what? One thing I just want to mention, it's not because some of us, like, it's not because you see my ass cheek or that you're gonna see a boob crack or something that I want you to send me messages asking me to do sex chat with you or whatever. Like, so I saw a few people going like, oh, you're wearing that, you're looking to be like objectify and being a sexual object. I'm like, okay, so you're the kind of guy who also says like, oh, this girl had a skirt, she was asking to get raped.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
basically the type of stuff that I've seen today, and I'm like, no, 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 you don't get it. This has nothing to do with presenting a sexy image. There's nothing wrong with that. You got firefighters doing like calendars to raise money that are sexy and stuff. It's fine. If you're comfortable with that, if it's your
Yeah.
choice, go ahead. But if I've worked for you as a professional wrestler and this is what I gave you the right to use and to do, then that's what you're using and nothing more. If
That's
I
the
want to
context
take
that I'm
sexy
using.
pictures after something and I want to do it by myself, my choice, my body, I'm going to do what I want. But you, that's not the agreement we have, and that's where it's wrong.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I really hope that CZW and WSU can definitely pull their finger out and sort this mess out because it's setting women's wrestling back, and you mentioned on things that set women's wrestling back for a while. But Lufisto, look, before we start wrapping things up, where can everyone find you? Where can everyone learn more about you, get in contact with you? Take it away.
Well, Twitter is at Lufisto, Instagram is Wounded Al Lufisto, Facebook, facebook.com/Lufisto. And if you can't remember all that, just go on my website, Lufisto.com, and there's all the links there.
There you go, Lufisto. Thank you so much for coming on. And guys, look, just wanted to make a special thanks to all of our sponsors again, which are Signal Studios, Mayan Belts, A-Rock Designs, Immortal Restoning, and also good thanks to my good friend Mikey Mados for making the beautiful images that you see before my show. But Lufisto, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great time getting to chat to you and learn more about you. I'm sure all of our viewers have enjoyed it as well, but we'll definitely have to get you back on for a part 2. But
I hope
thank you.
so. I'll
Thank
try
you.
to learn more slang.
Well, I'll send you a slang book, and we can we can so you can study up. But
Then I can
guys,
show you some French.
merci. But guys, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for watching Shooting the Shit Uncensored from Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance. Please click that subscribe button somewhere above here, and make sure you don't miss out on any of our future shows. But we look forward to seeing you next time, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.